Welcome to another training video. It's that time again. I'm Christopher Brannon from the Coeur d'Alene Public Library in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, with the Cooperative Information Network.
And I'm George Williams from Northeast Kansas Library in Lawrence, Kansas. And today we're going to be talking about another thing you can do in reports. So this is actually something. What was that?
Another report
thing. And like I said last week, like I hinted at, this is the last little thing in a report. And next week will be a longer video about a report that I use regularly that combines everything that we've talked about recently, like links in reports, how to use concatenation in a report, how to use unions, how to do extract mark, which is what I'm going to talk about today. There have been like 6 videos in a row. We've been talking about these things you can do in a report. And next week, I'm going to have a report that uses every single one of those things.
And then after that, we'll finally get away from SQL for a little bit and do some other things.
Then we'll do something else for a week. Then we'll be back in reports. So I'm at the koha-US site, and if you go to koha-US.org and click on Learn From Us, you can find these videos and all of our education stuff on the Learn From Us page. The quick way to get to the videos is click on koha-US videos. And well, I guess right here is a good example of what we've been talking about lately. We've got links and reports, concatenations and if statements, like versus equals, dates and subqueries, coalesce and SQL unions. So there'll be, by the time we're done with this, there will be 8 in a row on SQL.
Wow.
So that's we've probably beaten this dead horse into submission finally. But many of the reports, many of the techniques that we use, you can find a lot of reports on the Koha Reports Library, which is on the wiki at koha-community.org, wiki.koha-community.org. And then if you look for SQL Reports Library, you can find a lot of this stuff. And a bunch of the stuff we've talked about is already here. What we're going to talk about today is querying Marc. And there's a couple of different ways to do this. I'm going to talk about this version here, which is the way I learned it. And actually, it was, you know, I understood how to do this. I had seen it, but Christopher was the first person who wrote a report that he shared with me, like, 8-9 years ago, that used this technique. And so, what I know about this, when I started using it, was something I learned from Christopher.
And I learned that from either the reports wiki itself or from Bywater, one or the other. Bywater's been extremely helpful in this as well.
Yeah. So, so let's go to the staff client. I'm using my Koha. I'm not using the koha-US demo because we don't have a lot of stuff in the koha-US demo yet. But I've got some reports here. And, one of the first things that I used this for was for getting subtitles. And that was what I saw you using it for, was getting the subtitles, the stuff in the 245B field in the Marc record. Into a report, so that if you're looking at data on the page, if you just use the title field and your report returns a result of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, well, there's like 8 Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, and the title is all Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and then there's a colon, and the subtitle is what tells you which one of the books it is. Now, if you're in a library like any of the ones I've worked in, when you go to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid shelf in the youth services section, there's about this many books in a row, and it's Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Diary of a Wimpy Kid Dog Days, Diary of a Wimpy Kid I don't remember all the different titles. If my kids were a little younger, I'd probably remember all of them, but there's a bunch of them. And if all you got in the report says diary of a wimpy kid, you're not going to be able to find them. And so this method, I did some samples. So let me run the first one. I think the first one is without any information at all. So let's run it. I'm just going to run it from the Atchison library on books. And I think this report is just showing us the title. Yeah, so all we've got here is the title field, and I'm going to show the SQL. And so what we've got here is bibliotitle. And so if you've got any subtitles in those records, you're not going to see those subtitles when you do bibliotitle as the field. So the second report I've got here actually shows us what the difference is. I'm going to open that and do the exact same search and search for book at Atchison. So let me collapse that. There we go. So I can see this one here. This is the first report I ran. This line, the third one down, North American churches, : dinner with Edward, : dangerous territory, : If we look at the second report, when we get to that same line, North American churches, : from chapels to cathedrals. So this has the subtitle information on all of those.
Yeah, several of them.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them. Subtitles are all over the place in bibliographic records. And here's the difference in the SQL. If we go back and look at this one, I've just got bibliotitle. If we look at this one, I've got a concatenated field here that I'm calling full title. And I've concatenated bibliotitle, concatenation with a separator. So the first line is that separator, the space. And then I've got bibliotitle, and then I'm doing this thing called ExtractValue. And it's looking at a different table. It's looking at biblio metadata, is where the Marc record actually lives. And in that metadata field, I'm telling Koha to find the biblio metadata field. And from that, we're going to extract a value. And the value we're going to extract is this data field at tag 245, subfield code. And I'm getting 4 of them, H, B, P, and N. And so that'll get me essentially all of the data in the 245. I'm going to have it put in this, in the output for this report.
Okay.
And some libraries, if you're fully RDA compliant, you're not going to have the 245H because that's the general materials designator. And if you're 100% compatible with RDA, you're not going to have that field anymore. So now here's the thing is, this is an old school way of getting this data, because now with Koha, if we go to the administration, in the Koha to Marc mapping, as of the last upgrade, we're on version 1911. As of the last upgrade, the 245B, you can map that to a subfield, and it's currently now being mapped in our system. It's being mapped to biblio subtitle. So now there is a field in the database where I could just as easily remove this 245B and have that be biblio.subtitle. Not every library has that set up yet, and maybe you're not using a version that does that. If you do add that Marc mapping to your system, you have to have do a reindex to get the data to populate properly.
Okay.
But this is the old school way of doing it. I've got another example. Let's see, that one was number 2, right? Or This one was number 2, so I want number 3. Here's another example of something you can get out of the extract mark. I think this one is the 490 information you can also get out of there. So the 490 is the series information.
Okay.
This is another one that can be mapped to I believe it's a field in the biblio items table. So you can either get it from this way from the metadata, or there's another way to get it if you're mapping over here. Somewhere along here would be, let's just do a search and find it. So biblio items volume is 490V. And there's another one, I think it's biblio atom, or biblio serial title is 490A. So that's the series statement. So this data can be found too, but some of this data is in the biblio table and some of it is in the biblio items table. So it's in 2 different places. So you have to do 2 different joins, but this gets me series and volume.
Okay.
And let me show that. So I've got, here we're doing extract value 490. Oh, this one I've also got, you can also pull indicators. So strictly speaking, in the 490, you're not supposed to use, I think there's certain, I don't remember what the rules for indicators are, but I've got a lot of faulty indicators. And so I wrote a report to find the bad indicators. And so the difference between extracting the subfield data is, the subfield data is the data field at tag, and then subfield at code A. But the indicators is just at indicator 1, at indicator 2. And when you extract these values, if there's more than one 490 indicator 1, it automatically concatenates them. It automatically does a group concat. So this one, Grover's Bad Awful Day, I think I've read that, has 3 different subfields and they all have an indicator, and the indicator is 0. So it plugs all 3 of them into one field. And so this is a Growing Up book, a Sesame Street book, and a Golden book. So it's got all 3 of those series titles concatenated into one field there. But like I said, this also gets mapped. It may be mapped in your system. The difference is that the indicators are never mapped. The series title in my system is mapped to biblio serial title. And then the other one, the volume, is mapped to biblio items, which is kind of confusing there. And then I've got another example. That one was number 3. I wrote these reports about a little while ago, and it's been long enough ago, I don't remember 100% what they're due.
Okay.
So we'll just have to run them and see what's going on.
Sure.
Atchison book. I think this next one I wrote it. Oh, this one, other things you can get that are completely not mapped is this one is written to get the additional authors in the 700 fields. So I've got everything I need to know to find this book on the shelf. There's the author data. But if there are any additional authors, I wrote this so that it gets the additional authors.
Nice.
And let me show the SQL on this. So here we go. So this one I did concatenate with separator, and I did a dash so that if there are multiples, they'll be separated with the dash. I don't know why I did that, because they automatically concatenate. That was an unnecessary step. But the extract value here is the metadata from biblio metadata, and I just You just have to know the field, which in this case is 700, and then it's subfield code A. And then that gets me all the additional data here. And I took the additional step here. One of the things about extracting the value is if you want to do a where statement, when you do the extract value, it's going to extract the data as a string. And so if you want to say, just show me the ones that have data, you have to say where the data is not like empty string. If you do a is null, you're still going to get blank spaces there because is null and empty string are not the same in MySQL.
Yeah. Sorry about the noise. If you can hear that noise in the background, we got somebody using a leaf blower to blow snowdrifts away from the sidewalk.
I can't hear it, so
Okay.
we'll have to see how it turns out on the final video, and hopefully we don't have to re-record this section. But reminds me of when we moved into this house and that we lived in Troy, Idaho, and the neighbors were the first day we're there, the neighbors, I can hear them using the weed eater, and I'm thinking, oh, this is nice. We've moved into a neighborhood where people actually take care of their yard. And then 2 hours later, when the weed eater was still running, I realized, oh my God, they're not just trimming the yard, they're mowing their yard with the weed eater. It was days, it seemed like, before they got that yard mowed.
Oh my gosh. And then they have
so this is another one. This is another report I ran, 2205. And this time I'm extracting the 655, which is the genre heading.
All right.
And so let me show how to do that. I've got extract value, bibliometadata. And in this case, I know that the subfield is, or that the field is 655 and it's subfield A. And then I've got that written down here as where that subfield is not like empty string.
Right.
And so this gets me a list of all of the titles with the genres. Now there's one last one I've got here. So this is all useful if you're running a report and you want to get that information in there, but you can also, we can limit to a specific, if we know what the term is. So I'm going to look for, this time I'm going to look for, at the Osawatomie Library, I'm going to look at books. I actually have a report like this written for one of our libraries where they are trying to build a collection of erotic fiction. And so I actually have, I have a report that uses this so that they can run a report to see what their circulation is on their erotic fiction collection. And so I've got, you can actually limit based on that term. And so if I run this report for the Osawatomie Library, this will show me everything where one of the genre terms includes the word erotic. And I can show you the sequel here. So I've got the same as the last report. We're doing extract value, biblio.metadata, data field 655 at subfield A. And then down here, I've got that same subfield written in here, but I'm doing like, and I'm concatenating two wildcards around a search term. That way I don't, it's not just getting the things that say erotic fiction. Some of them, the heading is erotic stories. And actually, if I do edits, I can show you exactly how that where clause is written. Because what I've got is in the where statement, I'm saying where the value I'm looking for is like, and then I'm doing concat, and then a wildcard comma, and then here I'm doing one of those runtime parameters. So I've got the double angle brackets, which allows me each time I run this report, I can put a different term in there.
Right.
So I can search different terms. And because I've got the wildcard before and after, it's just going to look for those terms, whether they're at the beginning of the sentence or the end of the sentence. Anywhere the word erotic, when I type that word in there, appears in that search, is going to give me a result.
Okay.
So that's how you add the Marc data. That's how you can use a report to get the Marc data. And like I said, if you go to the Koha community wiki, there are several different ways that they show examples of how to do that. This is just one of those ways, but it's the one that I find the most useful for me. It's the easiest one to remember how to write.
The thing that tripped me up for a little bit was because that Marc data, that information, you can search for data fields, subfields, control fields, and that's the part that trips me up sometimes, is knowing which is which.
Yeah, that's something I struggle with too, because I'm not a cataloger. I've never been a cataloger, and a lot of this is stuff that I've had to learn. But this is, of course, a great part of being the Koha community, is if you're not sure what you're doing, if you're not sure where to look for something, you can always get on, koha-US has the mailing list. If you're a member of the koha-US mailing list, you can ask us. You can, if you're a member of the Koha community mailing list, you can ask there. There are always people willing to help. The Koha community has their Slack, not Slack channel, they have the IRC channel. So you can go on the IRC and just throw a question out there. Bywater Solutions has a Slack channel that Bywater partners can join, and you can ask these questions. So, and the catalogers, the Koha, well, actually, let me share my screen again. That's, which screen do I want to share? This one. If you go to koha-US, and we go back up to the top here, collaborate with koha-US. If you go to the collaborate page, we have these this list of, I'm not sure where to find the special interest groups, but here are the mailing lists on the Collaborate with Us page. You go to Collaborate and then go to mailing lists. And
there you go, special interest groups, right down there.
Yeah, special interest groups. But there are more than just the overall Koha US mailing list. If you click on special interest groups, there is a cataloging group that meets monthly, first Thursday of the month, 8 to 9. And there is, if you go to that and join that group, you can get on the mailing list just for the catalogers group. Or there's one for acquisitions, there's one for library consortia, there's one for the demonstration interest, system administrator, user services, web developments. And then there's, of course, the book and crafting club. I've never been to one, but they meet once a month and they just turn on Zoom and knit and talk about books and hang out together and be friendly. So you didn't know about that one, apparently.
I did not.
So these are all the different special interest groups. And, if you have cataloging questions, asking the other catalogers is a great way to get an answer. So that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So that's it for the bits and pieces of this whole SQL thing. Next week, you're going to put all this together and wrap it up in a nice, neat package with a bow.
Yeah, something like that.